Hey everyone, it's 10 types, and the Pokemon TCG has a ton of different cards in it. And so inevitably there are going to be some cards that go under the radar and are actually quite good that people just don't really play that much, honestly, because they're probably just not very familiar with them. So today I figured I'd go through every set in the Pokemon TCG in Standard specifically and talk about one card that is underrated. I'll be down below in the comment section if you want me to do this in not just Standard. I feel like people probably don't, to be honest, but that would also be a lot of sets there. Also, I need to clarify what sets I am including and not including. It's pretty much every set. If you look at a set like Prismatic Evolutions, I'm only counting the cards new to that set, so like not Dustor. I mean, Dustor's not really underrated, but that doesn't count. That would count for Shrouded Fable there. And then also, I'm not doing obviously the energy sets. I mean, obviously. And then also, I'm not doing the promos. This one I think is also relatively obvious. I don't even know if it's like really a set, to be honest, but it's like kind of a set. And so, yeah, sorry, promo fans. There's like not even that many exclusives that are really good at all. But anyways, let's just hop right in. All the other cards or sets are included there. Oh, I guess not the wait, this is out yet. Out now. Okay, anyways. Not the stuff that oops, not that. Not the stuff that isn't released yet internationally. Like for example, this Numble, I guess. That the card's not out yet. But yeah, everything else is on the table here. In the cards that I'm saying are underrated, these are cards that see almost no competitive or even like moderate play. These just like are cards that people don't really play, don't really talk about too much. It's not like they're never played ever at all, but it's very, very little outside of one card. There's one card here in this video that I'm going to talk about, which is played. I'd say a decent amount, but I'd say it's definitely very underrated as well. I feel like it's like a super good card. But anyways, the first card here, this card is a Wugtrio. Wugtrio isn't actually like super good. Let's be honest, right? Wugtrio here has its second attack, which is a mill-based attack, as in it discards cards from your opponent's stack. And so you flip through coins for 3 colors, then you discard 3 cards on top of your opponent's stack for each heads. This could mill a lot, though, to be honest. On average, it's milling 4.5 cards here. Obviously, it's anywhere from 0 to 9. Most of the time, it's going to be 3 or 6. And yeah, I mean, this is decent mill, honestly. It's not amazing, as I said, but it's pretty decent. Like, it is good mill. Mill's just generally not super good, but this is a good amount, right? Milling 4.5 cards every turn on average, pretty decent. You compare this with the what someone's playing it with the Shinotic. Okay, that's like kind of cool. But what do you compare it with Ignition and Reversal? Ignition is a newer card, much newer than Wugtrio, and I think some people haven't like thought about that. Most people just thought about it in terms of Reversal because these cards came out at a more similar time period. But Wugtrio with Ignition Energy is really nice. This card is legitimately, it's all right. It's not bad by any means. If you're looking to play mill, this is okay. This isn't a card that is super amazing, but it's not bad either. Also, I'm not gonna lie, most of these cards are control or control adjacent. Like this is mill here, but there's going to be a lot of disruptive cards here. Obviously, Wugtrio is really going to be the face of its own deck, but a lot of these aren't going to be that. Moving on to the next expansion, Paldea Evolved. This is Mismagius. Mismagius is a card. I don't think I played it on the channel. I'm not sure, but this card is really interesting with the ability Magical Flick. I've talked about this some in the past, and when you play this to evolve it, then you get to move an energy from your opponent's active to one of their bench Pokemon. This is the same as the LGM, or it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to LGM from, what sets it from? Is it White Flare? No, it's Black Ball, but it moves an energy around. This card sees some play within Control, or also like some other decks, but mostly Control here. And wait, what's the Dunsparce? Okay, this is just a control deck. But anyways, you're able to use this card, the LGM, but that's an attack. This is an ability here. Yes, it just moves it around from the active to the bench, which is technically a little worse, but it's not that much worse, right? Really, that's what you want to be doing. So this is a decent ability, and it is an ability, and you can just use it at some point, like leave the Misdreavus on your bench, play the Mismagius here, and move an energy from your opponent's active to their bench. You can pair this with Strange Timepiece to do some really cool things, but you don't have to do that by any means. You could just, play this card as a card as like a 2-card tech in a deck to be a little disruptive. It's kind of like Crushing Hammer, but it's guaranteed, or something with Enhanced Hammer, kind of like that. It's pretty decent. Again, against some decks where they rely on energies that they don't just have that many energies. If you're looking at like Goldengo How good is this going to be? I don't know, but it could be good if you use this enough times. Then you will probably just win as well. So definitely a really really interesting card. Super underrated. It's a little awkward to slot into decks. This is by no means like an amazing card, but like it's seen like no play really. It's better than that. It's an okay card. Again, these aren't amazing cards, but they're all right. Next card here is Mawile. Mawile has the ability Special Ear. Honestly, this card is kind of similar to Mismagius, and this is also a card I legitimately forgot about. It's seen relatively little play, or honestly very little play. But it has an on-play ability from hand, so you cannot use it with Buddy Buddy Poffin or Nest Ball, which is it does hurt it, but it allows you to discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. And yeah, special energy is honestly it's not played that much, but if you're able to discard it, it's pretty good. Specifically, not Jet Energy. That one's not going to be as good to discard, which does he play. But you're looking at like Dragapult and the special energies in that deck, and discarding those is pretty good. It is from their active, so if you say want to go after a Monkey Dory's special energy, like Luminous Energy on the bench, then you will need to gust it, which is kind of underwhelming. But getting rid of a Neo Upper Energy from Dragapult EX is quite good. This is a card that does that. It's like Enhanced Hammer, but it is a Pokemon. Theoretically, it's replayable. It's also more searchable by a bit. It's not, as I said, drastically more searchable because you can't use it off a Nest Ball. But it's good, I mean, it's okay. It's by no means bad. It does take a bench space, so there are reasons why this can be worse than Enhanced Hammer. But there are definitely reasons why this can be better than Enhanced Hammer as well. And yeah, I mean, this card, as I said, it sees like essentially no play. It's a lot better than that. Next one we have here is Daisy's Help. This is a card I've talked about a bit on the channel. It's not a card I actually play that much, but it's a decent card. It's a supporter that draws you 2 cards. Obviously, that's not particularly good, but it also has this effect that lets you look at your face-down prizes, which is very similar to Town Map. It's essentially objectively better, except that you need to remember your prize cards. Town Map reveals them, but it reveals them to your opponent as well, which is like, I feel like Town Map is not very good. I'm a bit of a hater of that card because revealing your prizes to your opponent like seems bad. I mean, yes, you get to pick and choose what you want, which is useful, but if you prize something really useful, now you just revealed it to your opponent, but maybe I'm just being paranoid. Anyways, Daisy's Help doesn't have the downside. It is your supporter for the turn, which isn't super good. But people play Zero Six Machinations too. Now we'll actually get to Zero Six Machinations later. It is an interesting card with an interesting synergy. But yeah, Daisy's is it's a supporter that doesn't do too much in terms of draw, which is underwhelming. But it lets you look at your face down prizes, right? Which is legitimately useful. If you want it, right? If you're playing a deck that you play a bunch of one-ofs that you're looking for like later game. I mean, we do have Exchange Ticket, which does get stuff out of your prizes, but this card is useful. It's situational, but it is, or like situational in terms of what decks it's good in. It's situational in what game states it's actually useful in, but it is a useful card to at least keep in mind if this is the type of card you're looking for. I think it is the type of card some people are looking for and they just don't know it exists. So try considering it. Then we have the next card. I'm not going to lie, this card is not very good. This is from Paradox Rift. It's Rourke here, which draws 2, just like Daisy's Help. And then you put a basic energy from this card into your hand. Again, this card hasn't really seen very much play. It's seen just a tiny bit. I mean, recovering a basic energy is okay. The reason this card is like all right is because you look at Night Stretcher recovering energy. It also recovers Pokemon, which is going to be probably a bit more useful. But it also draws you 2 cards, which is like kind of cool. It's another supporter like Daisy's Help that does 2 things. The things it does are kind of meh. Honestly, I really struggle to figure out what to do with Paradox Rift. There's some cards that see play that are like maybe a little underrated, but they're not that underrated. I guess maybe my Lodic, but this card isn't like super good. It's very niche. Then there's also I don't know. There's some cards that like see play, but I can't say they're underrated. They're like that underrated. I was gonna say Iron Valley, and I guess it's a little underrated, but not spectacular. But Rourke is okay. It's not super good, but I feel like there's someone out there who's going to be like, oh, I need Rourke. This is like the missing piece. Again, that's going to be like very niche, but it could be a thing. And it's a good card to, just kind of keep in the back of your mind there. Then the next card we have here is another supporter that also draws you 2 or more or less. But this is a supporter that says your opponent reveals their hand, you draw 2 cards for each supporter you find there. This is also from Paldean Fates. There are not that many cards from Paldean Fates, just like Paldea Evolved. Well, actually, there are more from Paldea Evolved. But Paldean Fates, there's... Okay, there might be more from Paldean Fates, but in terms of new cards, there are very few, right? Because it's mostly reprints. So, this one was hard to find a card for, but Clive is interesting here. It allows you to, theoretically, to draw a good chunk of cards. You also do get to look at your opponent's hand. Looking at your opponent's hand is mostly useful, to be honest, to be able to then Iono them. Obviously, you're not doing that, right? But it does allow you to draw cards and theoretically draw a good chunk of cards. Having a lot of spores in your deck is generally pretty good. And yeah, this is a card that is can draw you a good chunk of cards and maybe control or something. I don't know exactly the use case for it. It's useful if your opponent ends up with a lot of cards in their hand. Maybe you could pair it with some of those effects that draw each player a card. They're situational, but Clive is definitely an interesting option there. Again, it is situational. On average, it's drawing you... it might be like 3, which isn't like super good, right? Draw 3 is like not very good. I guess I'd say draw 3 might actually be underrated, but like not because it's good, but it's just not horrendously awful. But it might be drawing you 4 on average, but it's like not consistent. That's the issue. But it can be crazy as well. There are times when your opponent just has a ton of support, so it's like an interesting card to just kind of consider. Next one we have here is from Temporal Forces. This is Bronzong with the attack Evolution Jammer. For one Psychic on a stage 1, it does 30 and stops your opponent from playing any evolutions to evolve their Pokemon next turn, which is like super good. I believe Mist Energy does not stop this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. This is a card that this can legitimately destroy people. Like this card's seen, relatively little play for the fact that like look at the metagame. The metagame is the top 4 decks in the game, which make up a very large portion of the metagame. Not like quite as much as it looks here if you look at like more casual tournaments or the latter, but those are all evolution decks. Those 4. Then you look at like the other decks. The decks that aren't are Mega Kangaskhan. Okay, I feel like people like don't actually play this deck. Maybe they play it, but I haven't really seen it. But then there's also like Mega Absol, Mega Kangaskhan. There's Terrabox. Well, I guess Terrabox they want to be using Noctowl though, so it really shuts down some decks. But there's some decks that legitimately like obliterates. Like if you do this to a Gardevoir player and they can't evolve all game, that's going to be really bad for them. Will they be able to win? I don't know, because you're like doing not much, but like you might just win. So you can do this turn 1 going second as well using Salvatore. You can obviously use a turn 2 going first. Your opponent could TM Evolution out of it as well, so that is a legitimate concern. But like this is so disruptive, it's kind of crazy. Again, it is a card that is not an instant win. It can be an instant win. If it's not, and you're relying on it being that, then you're gonna lose. But it legitimately, as I said, can be an instant win sometimes. And a card like that also isn't that hard to splash into decks, right? This is not like a super difficult card to play. Like Bayonet EX, which doesn't see that much play, but like it's seen some play. That card is, it's not going to be instantly winning games. It's going to be powerful and disruptive at times, but Bronzong, it is more all in or all out in terms of how much it hurts your opponent, but it can be all in and just destroy them there. Then we have the next card here. This is another evolution. This is from Twilight Masquerade, and this is Luxray EX. To be honest, a big part of the reason I'm including Luxray EX in this video is because it's very similar to Mega Absol EX in terms of its attack here. You do Volt Strike for 2 lightning, you do 250. Wait, this card actually might have seen... Okay, no, it's just seen play from 2 people on this list. This was more popular at a time, I think, but yeah, it's like it is also a control card, I will say, but Volt Strike for 2 lightning, you 250 discard all energy from it, which is like okay. I mean, there's times to use this attack. They are somewhat situational, but they're not terrible by any means. But then you have Piercing Gaze for 2 colorless here. You do 120. Your opponent reveals their hand. You discard a card you find there. So actually, I thought this was Trainer, but no, that's Luxray V. I always get those confused. But yeah, I mean, this is the same as Mega Absol EX. I mean, you do less damage. You are also a stage 2, which is worse. That being said, you first of all give up only 2 prizes, which is like a lot better than giving up 3, obviously. Then you are also a a Pokemon that has the attack cost of only 2 colors, which is also a lot better than 3 darkness, or sorry, not 3 darkness. Darkness is just colors, but it doesn't really matter too much. It's not 3 darkness, just a tiny bit there, maybe a little more than a tiny bit. But anyways, yeah, I mean, this card is disruptive, right? It's disruptive on a similar level to Mega Absol EX. I mean, it's disruptive on the same level as Mega Absol EX. It's literally the same effect of the attack there. So that's good, right? This card isn't absurdly good, but it's not that much worse than Mega Absol EX. It does require a different deck build, right? Mega Absol EX is a card that's part of a basic toolbox deck. This isn't really doing that, but I mean, if you look at it in a Pidgeot control list, this is pre-rotation, but it is a toolbox deck. I guess it's a basic toolbox deck. I don't know if that's quite a good way to describe it there, but it is a card, or it's a deck that all the other Pokemon outside of Pidgeot and Luxray are basics there. But anyways, it's a really cool card. I'd really recommend trying it. Obviously, it is a control card here, but it's also, as I said, pretty similar to Mega Absol EX, and I think often pretty forgotten about there. Then we have the next card here. This one's from Shrouded Fable. Again, this is a smaller set. Where it's honestly a pretty good mini set. It's like kind of absurd to be honest. It's got the Dusknoir line. Dusknoir is just like very good. It's a top 20 card in the game. Might even be top 10 or Pokemon, not card. It's definitely not a top 10 card in the game, but it's very good. And then you have Dusclops, which is also pretty good. And then you have Pheasantipede EX. Pheasantipede EX is the best Pokemon in the game. I don't think there's too much debate over that. I mean, I don't know, you could debate it, but I feel like it's for me at least, it's pretty clearly the best Pokemon in the game. And then you have Night Stretcher. Night Stretcher is like also a top 10 card in the game. So you get 2 top 10 cards that are new to the set. And then you have 2 other, or specifically 1 other, like, very good card. Probably top 10 Pokemon. I don't know. I'm going to make that list at some point. But anyways, yeah, I mean, Dusknoir is really good. There's a bunch of really good cards. And there's a bunch of like meh cards. Closest nasty. I guess Source Expectation is meh. But anyways, Cassiopeia is really interesting. It's a supporter here that lets you search for any 2 cards, put them into your hand. If you only have 2, if you have no cards in your hand, aka this is the last card. That is obviously kind of sketchy there. It's not like super risky because I mean, you're going to use this presumably. Oh, there's a few cases you could use it to get a stage 2 in a rare candy. Then I guess it's kind of risky. You can draw out of it a little bit with Mew EX, but that is just going to be a few cards. But I mean, there are decks that like play UX for a substantial portion of their draw. But then on top of that, you can use this to, get yourself like a supporter and a card you want now. So a card for now and a card for next turn or something like that, right? Getting any 2 cards, obviously very good. You can't combo it with the other cards in your hand, but you could hopefully play those first. And getting down to no cards in hand is not that hard. You could pair this with Academy at Night and like Squove it if you wanted to, but that seems kind of niche. But it is a really cool supporter that I definitely recommend, I guess, trying out. I mean, the supporters like these, I just love them. We have no cards in hand. As I said, it is pretty niche, but it is pretty interesting as well. It's seen it play Miraidon apparently. I don't remember ever seeing this, but yeah. Next one we have here though, this is from Stellar Crown. Honestly, Stellar Crown has so many cool cards. I want to quickly highlight a handful of other ones that are underrated and really cool. You have Rotom, which is a nice little control / disruptive card. You have what else? Where are these cards? You get Dreadnought, a nice walling card. It's a really powerful. It's a relatively powerful wall. It's not absurd, but it's pretty good. You have Dashman EX has some like funny stuff you can do, but it's not that good. Iron Boulder, pretty cool card to be honest. A really fun hand size card there. Then you also have let's see, Rhyperior. Rhyperior is kind of cool, but it's kind of bad. I'm not gonna lie. Then you obviously have some good cards, but then you have anti Root Fossil as well, a funny little control card there. So honestly, all the cards I think I listed were all control cards, but there are some cool cards, and this card is also a control card. This is a really powerful hand disruption card here. This is Salazzle with the attack Sudden Scorching. You do have another attack, but it's not particularly good. But Sudden Scorching here says for 2 colorless on a stage 1, your opponent discards a card from their hand. If this Pokemon evolved from Salandit during his turn, your opponent discards 2 more cards. That's 3 cards. I mentioned Zoroark's Machinations earlier. This forces your opponent to discard down to 3 cards in hand. Then you make him discard 3 cards, and then Yeah, they don't have any cards, right? So that you can do turn one, or no, not turn one. You can do it turn two, going first, which is pretty it's pretty. I mean, it's just very good, right? It's very good if you can do it. It's pretty like man in terms of like you need to set it up, right? I haven't played this card too much to be honest. I legitimately thought this card was going to be very good. We did have double turbo. Double turbo is rotate, but we do have ignition energy. I think this card is pretty powerful to be honest. Paired with the Zodiac's Machinations, you do need to get them, right? You need the supporter. You can't use the supporter to set up in other ways. But I mean, if your opponent gets hit by this, it's really rough. If they do have an onboard Dronjin, then they can get out of it. If they have UEX, they can get out of it. If they draw into like a Dronjin or like a supporter, they can get out of it as well. So there are ways for them to get out of it, but like if they don't, then that's really bad for them. You could theoretically their sudden scorching every turn, and then like they always discard the card that they just draw, which like probably isn't that good. I'm not gonna lie, but I think it is legitimately good with Zero-Six Machinations, and that's one of the situations which are relatively rare where Zero-Six Machinations is like way better than Iono because you need to use this on the turn that you play it, which is before your opponent has taken any prizes, presumably. I guess you could pair it with Iono as well. Presumably, though, your opponent will like see it coming. Honestly, they might not, though. As I said, this card, or like pretty much all the cards in this video, are cards that people aren't very familiar with. So, they see a random Salandit, then like what Salazzles are even in format? There is there's a darkness Salazzle. Okay, well that card's like pretty bad there. But then moving on to the next card, this is the card that, as I said, there is a card that is it's a card that sees play, right? Counter Gain sees a bunch of play in standard. But I think it's pretty underrated, honestly, because it's a card that what it says is if you're down on prizes, it's you reduce your attack cost by one colorless. And it's a tool, right? So it's a tool which is searchable. Tools are some of the most searchable cards in the game. Specifically, like there are decks playing a lot of tool search that don't play a lot of tools. So you just have like extra tool slots or like pretty low impact tools. Like if you look at a deck playing Arvin, then you can see, let's see, Mega Absol, right? For example, you have TM Turbo Energize. Oh, wait, TM Turbo Energize. TM Turbo Energize is like decent, right? Or no, it's good. It's quite good. It's the card you're really looking for. Turn one, going second. That's why you have 4 Arvins in the deck. But you also have Bravery Charm. Bravery Charm's like okay in the deck. I mean, it's like, it's nice, right? It's definitely a nice card to have, but it's not gonna be like changing things too much too often. But it can be nice. But then you also can have Counter Gain, which is essentially a free search a lot of the time. And this card is essentially an extra energy attachment if you're down, which is like absurdly good, right? It's not always that, right? If you're looking at like Dragapult, it's not that. If you're looking at honestly, like the top decks of the game, it's not that. But like, if you look just beyond that, or just at a lot of different decks, it's so good. The reason I figured this out was because I was playing Rotom. This is absurdly good in Rotom. I actually made a video on it, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. But counter game, this card, I mean, it's very, very good. This is legitimately amazing. It's not a top 10 card in the game, but it's like I might be top 20 in my head. It's not top 20, but it's pretty good. It's a very, very good card. The only card in this video that is legitimately amazing. There are some other good cards. This one is played, right? It's not an unplayed card, but it is amazing. Then we have Sylveon. Sylveon from Prismatic Evolutions. Wait, yeah, okay, this is the set it came out in. With the ability Safeguard, you're immune to damage from EXs. This is like, I guess, a worse Crustle. But you can get into play the turn you play it using the Eevee, which can evolve quicker. You can do that with Crustle, with the one that evolves faster, with its attack. But this is not your attack, so it's like all right, and it can work within Eevee box decks as well. It's a pretty tame card, to be honest, but these effects, they can win or at least put you in a really amazing spot in games. So this card is a little worse than Crustle, I'd say, which kind of pushes it out of contention for being played a lot, but considering it within an EV deck, is pretty decent. This card is can power it up. I guess it's not super easy to power up. You can't power it up by evolving it from EVEX because it can't. EVEX only evolves into EXs, but this card is kind of cool. I guess you could evolve it from regular EV and use Glass Trumpet, but it's a decent wall. It's not amazing, but it's not bad either here. Then we have the next card here, Iono's Kilowattrel. This card is pretty cool. This one is a card I honestly fell in love with in GLC format. where you have the ability here, Flashing Draw, letting you discard a basic lightning energy from it, and then use this ability, and then you draw until you have 6 cards in hand. Draw until you have 6 is obviously pretty good on a stage 1 here. That being said, discarding the lightning from it is kind of awkward, but you just need like an extra attachment here or there, which you will find in some decks. To be honest, like probably not in the lightning decks, but if you're playing electric, then you will have extra attachments. So this in those decks is a pretty cool consideration. It's also, I guess, good within the Iono's deck. The Iono's deck isn't particularly good, but this card is very good in that deck. But with the electric, it's pretty good as draw. It's not amazingly powerful, but it's pretty decent. And again, you just need like an extra attachment or two throughout the course of the game, not to be able to use this all the time, but as like a burst draw option, kind of like the Dunsparce, except like probably a bit better. Not like all the time, but it can be better. It can draw you more cards. So it can it can draw you more cards, which is just obviously objectively better. That's not like this card is not objectively better than the Dunsparce, but drawing more cards is going to be better here. So definitely a pretty interesting card in my opinion. That is a little underrated and could go in different decks. Where you see decks in standard playing Munkidori that like don't have any energy acceleration. And yeah, in those decks, you just need extra attachments. Yes, Munkidori is like doing something every turn, and extra damage is really nice, but Iono's Kilowattrel definitely a card to consider in specifically electric decks, but also in other decks that can be good. Card I've chosen from Destined Rivals here. This one's honestly kind of boring. It's Steven's Metagross EX, but this is, a card where you accelerate, and there's some synergy with other Steven stuff as well. But you can accelerate a basic Psychic and or Metal from your deck to your Psychic and or Metal Pokemon in any way you like. This is like a decent energy acceleration. It can power itself up, though not in one turn, unless you attach from hand, which honestly is the big issue for this card, but it's like decent. I don't know if I'd compare it to stuff like Marnie's or Charizard EX, but it kind of is like them. But again, it doesn't fully pay for itself, which is a big difference. But it has a lot of HP and is very tanky. It's also a deck that, as I said, powers up different Pokemon, so it can be a toolbox deck. It's just a really, really cool deck, allowing you to, go ahead and just power up some different things, tank a lot. Its identity is a little unclear, but it's all right. I think it's a lot better of a deck than it gets credit for. It's not amazing, but it's all right. Then we have the best card from White Flare. This is honestly maybe the reason I made this video with Mandibuzz's ability. Look for the prey here. I will also say it does like an okay attack for what it is, but look for the prey here. Once in a turn, you can use this ability and have your opponent reveal their hand and put a basic with 70 HP or less you find there onto their bench. This does a few different things. It can only be played, though, if your opponent has bench space, but getting to look at your opponent's hand is quite useful to pair with something like Iono, where you'll be able to decide whether or not you want to use it, or like use your boss or whatever, right? And then also you can use this to get a basic or like fill up your opponent's bench so that they can't play other Pokemon that they want to play. Which can be really useful. Then you can also use, though situational, then you also can use this to get Pokemon to play that you want to trap in the active. This one's also situational because most of the Pokemon you want to trap in the active are going to be like not evolving basics, because if they evolve, then they can retreat if you like retreat lock them. So yeah, and then you also can get a Pokemon to play to then knock out with something, if you're playing Dragon Ball, you can then use like Hawlucha plus Dragon Ball EX to knock out a Pokemon to get an extra prize there, which could be useful. Yeah, these things are all a little situational, but they're all like decent, and it gets a ton of value in a bunch of different ways. This card is legitimately one of my favorite cards in the game. I guess I don't really play it too much, but I've messed around with it some, and it's been like all right. Looking at your opponent's hand is really nice. The fact you can't use this if they fill their bench is kind of awkward, but it's definitely not terrible. Also, speaking of Terra, that was the worst transition I've ever made. But you could actually pair this with Area Zero Underdaps. If you look at the metagame, most, or at least a good chunk of decks play a Terra in them. Not all of them, but some do. And some, like, you look at Dragon Ball, you look at Charizard, and these are decks that are playing Terras, right? And they're not looking to fill their bench. Certainly not fill their bench to 8. So you should be able to use this more if you are, if you could use it in that way. Keep in mind they will be able to presumably discard Pokemon from their bench at times when the stadium is bumped or whatever. So that's like kind of bad probably for you, but it shouldn't be too bad. Just keep that in mind. Then we have the next card from the other half of this set, or the other set related to this, Black Bolt, with the Alomomola here, with the ability Gentle Fin. Again, looking at 70 HP or less Pokemon. Again, basics as well, and if it's in the active, you can put one from your discard onto your bench. This is a really cool ability, allowing you to recover Pokemon on a Pokemon here. So again, it is more searchable than something like Night Stretcher. Night Stretcher is obviously better, but this is all right as a pivot option with Lottie SEX or Air Balloon. It's going to be pretty good there. Ultimately, I feel like Alomomola is it's cool. You know, it's not amazing, but it's a card that I've messed with some, and it's felt okay. Again, not quite sure exactly the use case of it. I've seen it played in some control decks, I think. What on earth is? Oh, okay, that's Palafin. Okay, I guess. But anyways, it's a pretty cool card. That has like decent recovery. The Pokemon you're looking to recover aren't always going to be these Pokemon. Honestly, a lot of times they're not, because these are going to be previous evolutions. But it definitely has some use cases that I would not look past. It is a cool card. You can pair it with like research to be more aggressive in evolution decks as well. So just some cool ideas there. Then we have Cinderace from Mega Evolution. This is one of my favorite cards in the game as well. This is one I definitely have played with. It's also not super good, but it's all right. I mean, when it's in play, it is actually super good. It has the ability explosiveness, letting you start it if it's in your opening hand, as the active specifically. And if you look at it through the lens of a stage 2, it's not particularly amazing. But if you look at it through the lens of a basic, this card is actually amazing. Turbo Flare here is the same, or it's not the same. It's better than Team Turbo Energize, searching for 3 basics and attaching them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. Then, of course, you shuffle, and you also do 50, and it's one colorless here. And then you also have 160 HP, which is like a bunch. I mean, it's not absurd for a Pokemon, but for a single prizer, it's pretty good. And then you have Free Retreat. This card's just like so good once it's in play. That being said, it's obviously not in play that often, but when it is, it's really good. There's also some wacky mulligan stuff you can do with this, which I really enjoyed. I've played with that. I've actually showcased it on the channel multiple times, and it's really fun. That being said, it's kind of bad because it relies on you playing like super low base accounts, which is like kind of awkward because you want to pair this with something that you'd normally pair with Team Turbo Energize, which are mostly going to be basic. So it's a really clunky card. But if you've not seen my Cinderace Tortuga deck, it's awesome. It's so much fun. Is it good? It's meh, but it's really, really cool. Also, Tortuga is also kind of underrated there. But, check that video out if you want to see. And also make sure you subscribe so you don't miss other content I have. But then moving on to the last card. This is one I teased earlier. This is Rotom EX from Phantasmal Flames here. This has the ability multi-adapter, saying that each of your Rotoms in play or cards with Rotom in their name or Pokemon specifically can have up to 2 tools attached to them. This is useful for there's the Rotom deck, right? That like you had a bunch of tools in play, then you do a bunch of damage based on that, which is a really cool deck, though admittedly really stressful, surprisingly. But it is a card which you can pair with some weird Rotoms. There's a shocking amount of really interesting Rotoms, including some really interesting control ones like Rotom, which I mentioned earlier. There's a Rotom from, I think, Surging Sparks as well. But anyways, you can get like extra tools on them to do some really weird and powerful disruptive stuff. I don't know exactly how good this card is, but it has a lot more depth than I was expecting. I was expecting it to mostly be this card. We'd put it within the Rotom deck to do some funny little things. But this card is crazy with the amount of depth it has in it. But anyways, tell me down below in the comment section if you have any cards that you think are super underrated that you'd recommend to myself or other people. But I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the good stuff. And as Awesome said, see you in the next video.